Okay, we might get started, everyone. Welcome to members of the community. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. Roll call, we have an apology from Councillor Shanks. I don't know where Councillor White is. Oh, he's on a leave. Oh, he's on a leave of absence, yes. Motions to grant leave of absence.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. And that is for yourself to have leave of absence from the 17th of March to the 5th of March inclusive.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lorna. All those in favour? Thank you. Yes? Oh, yes, certainly, absolutely.
Yes, it's for Councillor Lorna. It's the 10th of the 5th to the 17th of the 5th inclusive.
Okay, so it's the 10th of the 5th to the 17th of the 5th?
Yep,
inclusive. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Yes, Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Public open forum. Is Ray Koshel here? He's not. Hey? I beg your pardon? Oh, I'll put him down the bottom then. I'll put him down the bottom. Okay. So if anybody want to speak in public open forum? No? Okay, thank you. Deputations. So we have, so in this order, Mr Tony Piccolo, Deborah Russell, Kylie Webster, you're not last, Kylie, and Ray Koshel will be last. So Mr Tony Piccolo, if you'd like to come forward, thank you. You don't have to clap. Off you go, Tony.
In support of the residents of Kershaw Estate in their presentations, just as to why Council should apply its public consultation policy in relation to the proposal to establish a telecommunications tower on Hemmerford Grove Reserve. Apart from myself, tonight you'll hear from three other residents who all have an interest in this matter. They, in my view, having discussed the matter with them, I believe that they'll present compelling reasons as to why they should be given the opportunity to argue the merits of this matter through a formal public consultation process. These three residents are not alone. They represent the collective views of many more residents who live in the Kershaw Estate. Because the proposal is on council land, two separate processes come into play. Firstly, council as a planning authority through the council assessment panel, and secondly, council as the landowner. It is the second process that the residents and I appear before you tonight. It is an important distinction for councillors to note and to understand. The planning merits of the matter will be decided upon by the council assessment panel, which is independent of this forum tonight. The decision council as a landowner will need to make is to whether it wishes to grant the proponent a lease to use a portion of the Hemmerford Grove Reserve so that they can install a telecommunications tower on it. The Hemmerford Grove Reserve is community land, which ordinarily would require the council to consult with the community before deciding to grant a lease or not. It is my understanding that the proponent will, in the first instance, request a lease for a 5-year period. Proponents would normally request a 20-year lease for land they wish to install a telecommunications tower upon. The towers represent a significant investment and become an important part of the network. So why a 5-year lease? If the proponent requests a 20-year lease, Council will be required by law to consult with community in accordance with its public consultation policy. A 5-year lease agreement gives the Council discretion to consult or not. Given the investment the proponent is making, it is reasonable to conclude that a 5-year lease will become, in reality, a 20-year plus lease. I do not believe the law should be used in this way to deny the residents affected by this matter from being heard through a formal consultation process. You will hear from 3 residents who will outline what they believe they and their community, why they and their community should be heard on this matter. I would fully support them in their endeavour to be heard. They will outline how a good consultation process can build trust and support for Council's eventual decision. More importantly, the consultation process could build a sense of community which could lead to greater participation by the community in caring for its local public infrastructure. Tonight, the residents will not ask Council to decide the merits of the matter. They will be asking Council to hear their views before Council makes a decision. Yes, that process could take a little longer, but the investment could also deliver significant social dividends for both the Council and the community. The very first clause of Council's current public consultation policy states, "The Town of Gawler is committed to the open, accountable and responsive decision-making which is informed by effective communication and consultation between the Council and the community." Clause 2 of the policy states, "Members of the community have a right to be informed about issues affecting the area and their lives and to influence Council's decisions about these." Clause 1.2c of the policy states the benefit of public consultation is as follows. Community involvement in Council decision-making should result in greater confidence in the Council and responsive decision-making. For these reasons outlined, and those to be outlined by the residents a bit later, Council's own policy, I would urge Council to invoke its public consultation policy on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Deborah Russell, please come forward. Deborah Russell, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Deborah Russell and I'm a resident of Melaleuca Drive, Gawler East. I speak to this proposal of the 5G phone tower in Hemford Grove Reserve at Gawler East. My purpose for speaking tonight is to ask for greater consultation with the wider community before a decision is reached by Council in enabling Indara to construct the said phone tower in this location. My family's attraction to living in Gawler is closely aligned with aspects featured in the Gawler Community Plan, namely the unique position of an historical township with good access to the City of Adelaide and an emphasis on the livability of this urban environment, combined with the natural beauty of, of many parts of the area. In the Gawler Community Plan, much discussion is devoted to the unique character of the town of Gawler, which straddles the space between town and country. The land in question at Hemford Grove Reserve is designated as public parkland and is in an area where residents have sought to buy into a particular lifestyle, namely one which affords peace and tranquility, open green spaces, large housing blocks which provide family accommodation and access to the natural environment, with an emphasis on sustaining this lifestyle into the future. The open spaces and large housing blocks are indeed one of the drawcards for this particular area of Gawler East, and I strongly believe that a large phone tower and its associated infrastructure will seriously damage this community asset. On page 23 of the community plan, it states, "Community health and social wellbeing is a fundamental and ongoing responsibility." And I strongly believe that the Council has provided excellent facilities to meet the goals of community wellbeing through the provision of updated parks and playgrounds. Indeed, the Hemford Grove Reserve provides a recently refurbished and inviting playground space with attractive gardens and good car parking, as well as ready accessibility for foot traffic directly to the parkland. The recent experience of living through COVID restrictions has served to emphasise the importance of open green spaces for the health and mental wellbeing of all people, and this particular park is busy on a daily basis with dog walkers, children playing, and other recreational activities of local residents doing their best to look after themselves. I wish to state that I absolutely accept that phone towers such as this one proposed are a necessary part of our 21st century lifestyles. I also acknowledge the projected growth of the Gawler region and the need for coverage of new phone towers for all residents and businesses in the area. At this juncture, what I am exhorting Council to do is to utilise the public consultation policy and recognise that the community of which I am a part does not feel that it has been adequately consulted on the proposal to date. On page 5 of the Community Plan, in the message from the Mayor, it states, "The Community Plan 2030 Plus provides direction for how we continue to deliver our vision. The town of Gawler is a livable, cohesive, active, innovative and sustainable community. The residents of Gawler East are particularly keen to work with the Council in achieving this vision through being active players in the decision-making processes which directly affect our community. Therefore, I'd like to reiterate that what I and others here tonight specifically seek is for wider consultation to occur with the residents who will be directly affected by the erection of this 5G tower before any final decision is made by the Council as to allowing the development to proceed. It is important for Council to engage with the community on this issue, not as a planning authority, but rather as the landowner on behalf of the community. In following the Council's own consultation policy, a proper forum will be provided for a number of issues to be raised. We all appreciate that consultation leads to better decision-making. I thank you for listening and for the opportunity to address this meeting.
Kylie Webster.
Good evening. My name is Kylie Webster. Myself, my husband and my 3 children purchased 6 Marion Drive, Gawler East 5 years ago. We chose this location due to its open spaces and peaceful community. We are directly attached to the Hemmerford Grove Reserve, a reserve that has a current application for the construction of a telecommunications phone tower, a tower that will be located 29 metres from my fence, located directly to my left boundary and will be seen and heard from all corners of my property. This is also the same reserve that has a considerable financial investment in a beautiful play space that is enjoyed by many young families in the area and beyond. We were informed of this potential tower in November 23. The application by Indara was submitted in June of 23. In those 5 months, our community had no consultation or information on this application by Gawler Council. In its own public consultation policy, the town of Gawler is committed to open, accountable and responsive decision-making, which is informed by effective communication and consultation between council and community. Yet myself and surrounding community members have received no communication, no forum or opportunity for discussion of our concerns or ability to ask our questions of the Gawler Council. As the landowners, we in fact openly invite the Council to be involved in this process. We simply want transparency, accountability, effective communication, and the confidence to trust the Council to put its people and community first. We all need phone towers. We have mobile phones, NBN. We run our business from our home office. We would find life very difficult without these amenities in current times. But this isn't a discussion on telecommunications. It needs to be a discussion about responsible infrastructure in responsible locations. I believe everyone in this room would agree that if a towering, imposing structure was to be erected 30 metres from their fence, that they would appreciate the courtesy of some sort of conversation, a forum that is more personal and discussive, where we can express our concerns and get answers. We in the community do not live like councils or businesses. Our lives are not based around policies and procedures. We are real. We are human. We think, we feel. We need the Gawler Council to see us that way. We need the council to communicate with us as human elements and not decision makers by paper or planning authorities. I ask council tonight to implement the Town of Gawler's public consultation policy. It is thorough and concise. It is there to support the community in situations such as mine and ours. Let's talk to get a better outcome for the community needs. Thank you.
Ray Koshel.
Your Worship, the Mayor, councillors, staff, thank you for giving me 5 minutes. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Ray Koshel, and I have the unique distinction of probably being the resident with the longest involvement in what is now Himmelford Grove Reserve. I go back to 1955 as a tacker. My parents bought the farm and they farmed it as a dairy farm for many years until 1968 when they sold it up because none of us kids wanted to take it on. And yeah, I got a whole bag full of stories about mice, big black snake, grandpas whipping them, all that sort of stuff. That was the end of the farming period. I ran potty calves and a few sheep on my block, which is now the corner of Himmelford and Koshel Drive, and I built a stone home there in 1983 and have lived there ever since. That's me. During that time, I've seen the Himmelford Grove take on a number of roles. The Himmelford Grove Reserve, I should say, from simple vacant land as it was predominantly for a fair while, was used extensively by, and some of you may or may not remember this, by horse people. There were a lot of horse stables and riders and whatever in the area at the time, and some of them came from the Hamilton Park estate, which was the first development that required the use of stormwater after Koshel Drive. To put stormwater into Hamilton Park, they had to get rid of all the overburden and excess soil. That became the mound that is now the oval on Himmelford Grove Reserve. Without that, we would have just had undulating land. As part of that deal, the developers at the time, I think this was Gawler Council timeframe. About that time, the Hamilton Park developers provided us with a small playground up in or down in the southern western area, a hardball hitting stand, a little concrete area, not far from where the playground is now, and a concrete cricket pitch in the middle of what is now the oval. Over time, the area was irrigated. Kikuyu lawn was planted and we had a very usable, friendly surface that was very active at the time with people getting out and, you know, cats, dogs, not so much cats, dogs, lots of parents and kids and kites and all those sorts of things. However, that came to an untimely end when the water restrictions were in place during our drought in the early mid-2000s. And sadly, the water hasn't been turned back on in that area since, and what used to be a lovely lawn is now just a patch of weeds. Has been ever since. I can recall specifically in January 2017 getting absolutely fed up with a calthrop, going out there one Saturday and spending 5 to 6 hours, and I dug every calthrop plant out of that oval. And I took them in a big bag down to the council office, walked in and saw the CEO and said, "Here, what are we going to do about this?" To their credit, they sent a team up and they burned them off, and we haven't had much of it since. So I think I've had a little bit of a positive effect there. In its time, that area has been used for community events. Certainly when we had the grass there were community events and we used to do a whole heap of things there. So it's been a very positive, friendly area for a while, but it's run downhill a bit. It's had its ups and downs, but I get a feeling that now's about the right time to revive the community interest in the area. We're having I've had some discussions with some of my immediate neighbours, and there's a bit of an agreement and a willingness to put our hand up and help with the area. You know, develop, maintain, those sorts of things. So, maybe. And I'm figuring that the recent application by Indira for a mobile phone tower that the other people have spoken about and is the subject of this topic, I'm thinking that that's an ideal catalyst for council to take the reins here and bring the community more together. We're getting a bit of a change of the guard in the area at the moment. A lot of the older people are moving on, moving out, whichever way you want to look at it.
30 seconds, thanks, Ray.
Thank you. One paragraph. So a lot of the older people are moving out, a lot of the younger folks are moving in, some of whom you can see here tonight. So I think it's a good opportunity for the council to take the front running here, and if they would open their community public engagement process, public consultation process. I think there's a bit more here than just a communications tower that can be discussed, and I think everyone can win here. You're our landowner, which you're charged with making decisions on our behalf in this regard. We would dearly love for you to hear us outside of this formal environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That concludes the deputations. I'm happy to accept a motion without notice when it comes around towards the end of the meeting. Thank you. Okay. Oh, do you want questions? How many questions? Two? Okay, who is it to? Who is it to? Give me the question, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first question, the basis of a lot of the deputations tonight was seemed to be that around something that Tony Piccolo MP mentioned earlier, that around the being a 5-year lease rather than a 20-year lease, and about public consultation not needing to occur under a 5-year lease. Are we able to get some information on what the process looks like for residents at the current time going forward, when council gets to make a decision as the landowner, and whether there would need to be any intervention by council to have a public consultation, and what that would look like? It's a large question, but yeah.
Okay, CEO.
Through the chair. Thanks for the question. I've got the timelines as to where we are and where this project is going, which might hopefully answer most of the questions you were asking. Just going back briefly, the application was lodged onto the portal on the 26th of June. It didn't go live until the invoice was paid on the 29th of June. Information requests were made by council to the proponent, and that was supplied on the 5th of October. So clearly there couldn't be any engagement prior to that, so a few months. The application was then advertised for a period from the 7th to 27th of November. This is, I guess, from a DA point of view, under the PDI Act. There were 34 reps received. On the 15th of December, which I think is relevant to all parties, the application was put on hold at the request of the applicant. This is to address responses, representations received, and to decide whether there be modifications of the application. We basically provided them until the 8th of March to come back with any modifications they seek to make, and they have advised that they will be making modifications which should be lodged on the portal on the 1st of March, which is this Friday. So that process will then allow council staff to determine whether those changes are of a minor or more consequential nature. Once that is determined, the earliest we get to CAP would be the 11th of April this year, but it could be later. So that's the earliest, 11th of April. I guess what isn't addressed in that timeline is there are two separate processes here. Those 34 parties who put submissions in will all be entitled to speak before CAP if they so choose. and CAP will make a decision in accordance with the Act. The separate issue is about, and I would suggest that engaging at the moment, for example, even with the best of intentions by all parties, on an application which is likely to be modified this Friday probably isn't the most efficient thing to do. Notwithstanding, there are strong views to be had at the moment. But after this Friday, I think they'll have an application which we can then look at what that means in terms of whether it does or doesn't respond. Beyond the issue of the CAP process, there's the issue of landowner consent, which is the issue of the lease, whether it be 5 years or other term. And I would have thought it would be appropriate that we wouldn't entirely comply with the requirements to do engagement with the community affected, to whether it be drop-in sessions, whether that be mail-outs or a combination of all the above. Because there's a process we clearly have to go back to council to get a decision on that lease. But in terms of the issue of 5 years versus 10 years or other, I'd have to take further advice on the ramifications of that.
Through you, Mayor, just for my clarification, that little clause that is 5 years versus 10 or 20, is that coming out of the Planning Act, or is that, where does that actually come from? Because that seems quite an anomaly, not that we're now facing.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I just want to get some clarity around council's discretion to actually go to formal public consultation, because it sounds like that we are allowed to.
We are allowed to.
So, for example, a motion on notice tonight, we could...
Yeah, well, a motion without notice.
Sorry, a motion without notice tonight could...
I'm happy to accept
that's what I thought you meant
a
before.
valid motion that goes, that allows the community to ask questions. And I think that's probably what they want to do.
That's what I'm hearing tonight. That they want formal consultation more than just a little letterbox.
So it needs to be a forum. It needs to be a forum, and it needs to be people asking questions and being provided with appropriate answers.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So foreshadow something later on then. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Samble first.
Thank you, Mayor Karen, and it certainly does me proud to hear the community coming out and especially supported by somebody that's got real heart in our town in Tony Piccolo. So thank you, Tony, for doing that. It's interesting to hear Ray say about some of the early history, but 40 years ago there was a residents' association called Coastal Estate Ratepayers Association. And at the same time, a car club was started up, which is the largest car club in South Australia. And they were instrumented by Trevor Bellchambers, who lives on Sheik Avenue. And along with so many other people in the area, have been a lot of history to do with that area. But Ray didn't mention tonight, but I'm on the track, I haven't got it in writing, that reserve was donated to the council because we were the Barossa Council and then it went to Gawler Council. And it was to be developed as we heard tonight from Deborah and a couple others. It was developed for community use with families and all this sort of thing. There was no mucking around there, but with no public enterprises. Now, as you heard tonight from Andrew, who's done a lot of homework on this and only very new in the seat and that sort of thing, but we did not, this council and the previous council, didn't know of this until the 7th of November. And it was a federal matter. Now, you can shoot me down if it's not a federal matter, but I'm under the understanding that this was all done by the federal government. And if this is the case, with the support of our local member here in South Australia and the residents all together, I'm sure that they're going to listen. I'm also under the understanding that this tower is to service the Springwood development. There is lots of vacant land over there in Springwood development where it should be. Who changed that? No one came and spoke to us, the residents of this town. So there's a lot of things there that I feel sure by what I've heard tonight that this is not going to fade away and we're going to work together and make sure that it's moved from that particular place, because it is an enterprise. As regards to 5 years, I've never heard so much crap. I mean, televisions aren't and phones aren't going to switch off in 5 years. So, you know, like, I really believe that this council, every way, should support the residents of that area. And I must admit, I live there, so I'm got to be a little bit careful what I'm involved with and what I'll say, but I'll push the barrel for everybody to see that we can get the right thing done. Thank you.
Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to make sure that I've got this all correct, just so we've got clarification for later in the meeting. Obviously, Mayor Redman said that you'll allow a motion later at the end of the meeting. But just to clarify what was said before by Andrew. So there's that separate council assessment panel process which is happening.
Yeah.
Council, that what we are responsible for here as the elected members is making a decision as the landowner about this.
That's right.
And the most appropriate way to deal with that, would that be to put a motion, well, if the motion at the end of the meeting is asking for or saying that council does want to consult as the landowner, but also asking for a report which details a consultation plan so that that can be approved at the new meeting. And does that fit in with the appropriate timeline that Andrew mentioned? Because he mentioned it was a bit early for some things. We need to know what the timeline looks like so that the residents can be aware of that as well.
Yeah. So I think that a public consultation should occur, and that can go hand in hand. That can go hand in hand. That there's a separate application process, and that's separate to council. So we can do a public consultation process and understand the residents' concerns, and they will come and ask questions and get appropriate answers. I think that's the orderly way of doing a consultation process. Yeah. So there's an application process which is separate to council. We have nothing to do with that, and then it'll come back. In the meantime, I think we can do public consultation. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. I'll go to Deputy Mayor. I'll go to Deputy Mayor first. Yep.
Yeah, so just, I guess, to clarify, like, because obviously the CAP is a separate decision-making body. If they approve something and then we say, oh, well, we won't give you the land for it, what is the next step after that? Does they have to go back to CAP with another thing? Does it veto it, or does it continue? Can I just get an explanation of what the actual process would be?
I think a public consultation process with residents and a report that gives a timeline of the risks and benefits of what the outcome might be. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is that fair enough? What did you want to say?
Just through the chair to clarify Councillor Sample's comment about the applicant. The applicant, Endara, I should say, is Optus. Optus got bought out by Endara.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? No. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest tonight? No? No? Okay. No declarations of interest, no adjourned items, no petitions. So we move to confirmation of minutes. We move to confirmation of minutes, and we'll do them one at a time. Ordinary Council meeting 23rd of January 2024. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Special Council meeting 30th of January 2024. Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Seconded by Councillor Lorna, thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Special council meeting 7th, sorry? I beg your pardon? I can't hear you. Yes, yeah. So there's going to be a motion without notice put up that I will accept if it's valid, and we will check on that. And there may well be a public consultation process being, in my view, a forum, and there's also going to be a report on risks and benefits of the application. Well, it will be motions without notice when that comes up. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Special council meeting 7th of February 2024. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 15th of February, special council meeting 224. Councillor Hennessy moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Second special council meeting, 15th of February 224. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor, and seconded by Councillor Lorna. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Business arising from minutes? There be none. Okay, so now we move to decision reports. So I'm on page 5 of 79, decision reports, and that Council endorsed the draft Adelaide North Transport Study feedback Council submission contained within attachment 2. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Hennessy?
Yes, I am, but I will have a question, so perhaps when somebody's seconded, could I ask? Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. I will accept your question now.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 9 of 79, under statutory requirements, there's a statement that this study is likely to result in a number of code amendments in the future that will seek to amend the planning and design code. Can I have a little bit more detail on that? Because that didn't come through anywhere in the report, so I'm a little curious as to what that might actually mean.
Who's going to answer that? Who's going to answer that one? You, Andrew, or not?
I'm sorry, Councillor Hennessy, through the chair. I will have to take that one on notice to try and actually draw the link appropriately so that I don't give you a mixed message on that one.
Thank you, Wendy Young. So that will be taken on notice. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Sample.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. I know I've stated it a number of times about this is so important, this transport study, and that everybody should start to put something into it. And one of the things are those fantastic buses with those fantastic drivers who drive around our town all day, quite often empty. I'd like to see them full. And I believe that I've spoken also to a number of people about would they use it if it went in a different direction. Is there a possibility, I'm not sure who would answer it, that we can have some input as to the route that bus takes, those buses take going around the town?
Yeah. Who'd like to answer that? Jack? You looked rather hopeful.
Through the chair, there is a separate working group as part of the public health planning that's looking at connecting transport between a couple of regions, which may include some of those buses going beyond Gawler and into Adelaide Plains Council, Light Regional Council, and then funnelling back into the town of Gawler. So that's a broader review currently happening separate to this strategy.
Would you like to take that on notice and provide an answer?
Absolutely.
via a memo?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes, certainly, absolutely.
Thank you for that, Jack, and I'll get back to you on it. But I think with the development that's going on the western side of our town and so forth, when we've got those buses that run around and the bus shelter for a place that is 275 home, which is Hillier Park out there, is those that live there just love it. It's heaven on earth, they tell me. And there's going to be another park exactly the same as that next door. And what I would like to see that when we do a run around the place is that if that bus turns off a Coventry Road, goes down Angle Vale Road, it picks up not only the library that we have out at Gawler Blocks there, but all the way around there, where the houses are now being built, there's new subdivisions going up on the corner, kicking up dust and all that sort of stuff. But that's where I would like to see the buses go. Then they'll come back with a full bus.
I'll get Wendy to answer that.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair. So, Councillor Samble, that type of feedback is exactly one of the streams of feedback we'll be seeking through the Gawler Integrated Traffic Strategy, where passive and public transport are certainly key features of us wanting to try and get that right for the future. So you can definitely, and we'll be encouraging everyone in the community to feedback in around that public transport ideas and issues. The Adelaide North Transport Study is probably looking more at that regional connection for public transport, so it's probably up at another level, but certainly be encouraging that more localised public transport to come through Gawler's integrated traffic strategy process.
Thank you. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just looking at this report, there was one thing that stood out to me.
Where
I think
are
was
you?
important mentioning.
Okay.
It's not in there. That's what I was going to mention.
Okay.
The thing that's not, is that the Gawler Youth Advisory Committee have a particular interest in this space as well. They actually have a dedicated working group to look at transport throughout the town. I think Councillor Samble might remember there was back a few years ago now when I was chairing that group, there was a survey which was done talking about transport in the town, and we found that there's a lot of services that exist, with the majority of the respondents to that survey not actually knowing that they existed in the first place. And I think that's definitely an easy area for improvement there. I know they do work a lot in this space on things like cycling and public transport in particular. So it would be good to include them in some of those future discussions, including probably the engagement that's alluded to in the report around the growth framework later on as well. I think those would be useful perspectives to have, but on the whole, obviously some very critical pieces of infrastructure here, and it's good to see all those plans coming together and start to talk about what that critical infrastructure will look like with Concordia and that growth, real growth that's happening in Gawler and the greater Gawler coming online.
Councillor Koch.
Thanks, Mayor. I actually went down to the community consultation when it was held at the rec centre. One of the reasons why, because I tried to do the online survey and it was so complicated I couldn't do it. For somebody who actually understands, I suppose, has been around this for a while and understands it, I found it almost impossible to do. So I actually went down and had a check. And the two, and I talked about most of the things that are in their report, that's fine. But my biggest concern is why wasn't this done before we started saying we're going to rezone a whole lot of areas? Surely this should have happened beforehand, because the government talks about they don't want a repeat of Mount Barker and debacle up there, but it seems like it's almost like they put the cart before the horse. They've gone out and said, we're going to rezone all these areas without actually thinking about the infrastructure, in particular, the road networks, which I think is backwards. Yeah. And the other thing I asked them was, well, who's actually going to pay for this? Is the state government going to pay for this? And they said, well, we don't know, because, they're building, and I said, well, they're building they're doubling South Road with all the tunnels. They're going to spend $100 million on a water strategy, feasibility study for Northern Water up in Whyalla or wherever it is, and then it's a $5 billion salination plant. There's a limit to what the state government can actually pay for. So I know it's a meaningful thing to do, but I just wonder whether, again, it's going to fall back on councils to pick it all up after we make all the submissions. That's my biggest concern. It should have happened beforehand. You know, they've got all their planners. You know, the government's got all their planners in there. They can they know what the issues are, and this should have really happened well before you started standing out in front of a camera and pointing to areas and say we're going to rezone something. I think that's just a backward. It's a bit backward. Yeah. Okay, we're happy to put in the. You know, I think it's good. I've looked at the. You know, our submission. It's pretty good, but it's pretty obvious. But that all could have happened well before. You know, someone stood in front of cameras.
The Northern Expressway is full. At peak hour times, and everyone goes 110. Some people go 130. Some people go 140, and. I don't go. I stick under the speed limit, and it is full at peak hour times. So it needs to have 2 more lanes either side. Either side.
And that's the whole thing, is that councils now will. I think it'll be cost shifting onto councils and public developers, and therefore. You know, the cost goes up. I mean, I know everyone's talking about affordable housing and there's lack of houses and you've got to open up land. And I suppose I find it a bit annoying that federal and state governments keep blaming councils for it. It's not our fault. You know, they should have done their policy planning years ago, and they should have put infrastructure in years ago, and not trying to play catch up and blame councils. That's just my view.
The online survey was quite difficult to do. You had to pick 3 modes of transport.
Yep.
Only 3, and you could only focus on those 3. Yeah. And if you used more than 3, you couldn't actually feed back.
And so in the end, they gave me an email address, and I provided my feedback back to them, and that was fine. But I mean, anyway, that's my view of the world. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a mover. We've got a seconder. Any other discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So I'm on feedback on Barossa Growth and Infrastructure Investment Strategy. I'm on page 10 of 79. Note the report concerning the draft Barossa Growth and Infrastructure Investment Strategy, endorse the submission at attachment 2 and letter at attachment 3 as Council's formal response to the draft Barossa Growth and Infrastructure Investment Strategy, authorise the Acting Chief Executive Officer to issue the letter at attachment 3 along with any changes of an incidental or minor nature. You happy to move that way?
Happy to move that way, and for the way that Andrew, our acting CEO, Executive Manager Development and Compliance, has put this together. It's very easy to understand, and again, it means that we as a community have to work very, very hard on any adjustments that may be made. So I'm happy to move this motion.
Seconded.
If I may. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to second it, and I echo Councillor Samble's words on the details that we are providing back, and I think it highlights again how much regional cooperation there is between the councils in this area. Sometimes there are opinions to the opposite of that, but here's a very good example, and there's another one coming up in a further report where council staff do work very closely with the neighbouring councils. One small suggestion that I might make is there is a statement on page 21 of the attachments, 21 of 228.
Just let us have a look. Where is it? What page?
Page 21.
21, yep. Council area?
Yep.
Overview?
Just the overview. There's a sentence that says, prior to European settlement, the Barossa region was inhabited by the Ngadjuri, Pamank and Kaurna people. It's quite true, but I would, myself, have some indication that there's still Ngadjuri, Pamank and Kaurna people living in the Barossa region today.
Yes.
To me, it indicates that they've long gone, and we know they're quite different to that. So, small touch, but I think in terms of reconciliation, that might be a very useful addition.
So, the Barossa region is inhabited? Yes. That's the Baross's thing, I think. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Koch?
Yeah, just got a question, I suppose. I don't know whether anyone can provide the answers. Looking at the attachment, it was fantastic to see that they had the council had each town and looked at the infrastructure requirements.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was communications for everything else. When will we see that for the Concordia area? Because,
well,
because
well, we're planning a workshop with Eleanor Walker, and that needs to be put in the diaries. When she wanted to do it in a couple of months, because then she'd have more meaningful information to give us, and so we're planning that.
Right.
And that would probably answer a lot of the questions that you have in your head.
Yes. Well, and the next one is, will the DA be given before the deeds are signed on the land for the infrastructure? Because you can get to a point where the DA is ticked off without having, and the infrastructure deeds say are with the developer, not on the land. Developer sells, and all of a sudden there's no...
They've got a new infrastructure system, and Eleanor Walker told me that deeds are out.
Okay, so deeds are out.
So there's a new infrastructure system now that that she will explain when she has our workshop.
Okay, and the last question is, later in the meeting we talk about the new statewide bushfire code amendment, and I know it's out for consultation and everything else. It hasn't been approved, everything else, but it does put Concordia in a high fire risk area. Should that be included in as a bit of a note that's a watching brief that people need to check, because potentially all the towns are probably in high risk fire areas now.
I think probably it is.
I didn't see it, but
so I think it will be mentioned.
Right, I didn't see it.
I think Eleanor Walker is an absolute gun, and she's a commissioner. She's all over Concordia.
Right, okay.
She will provide us with detailed information in a couple of months, and we need to work with her.
Right.
And she will also bring the social planner along, which I think is just fantastic. Okay. So
Right. Well, that covers. That's my points. Thank you.
Yeah. She will. We will have a workshop with Eleanor Walker. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. What?
Through the Mayor. You asked a question about checks and balances in terms of rezonings, DAs and the like. The Mayor largely covered it, but I guess what I would say is that, and the process that's being followed, being on the working group, is that the rezoning won't proceed unless basically the basic and general schemes that will be applied to the land in terms of infrastructure are basically agreed to and signed off. So that's the cost structure for delivery of that. That's the exact opposite of what happened at Gawler East, where the land got rezoned first and then we started chasing our tail a little bit, trying to work out how to get the deeds in place.
And that's exactly why I asked the question.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I guess the other thing, which I think the Mayor probably mentioned, is that basic and general schemes haven't been used in South Australia before. This will be the first test case. So they're trying to finalise the regulations so that the general scheme, which allows for social infrastructure, for example, whereas the basic scheme only is about hard infrastructure, making sure all that's set up properly so that it can be actually delivered on ground.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? If not, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. (10.3) Dalkeith Road boundary change proposal. It's an administrative proposal between two councils. Do you want to move that way? Thank you.
Yeah, happy to move it. On first glance, this seems like an exciting motion. We're launching another boundary proposal. But in reality, it's basically just some things that have been in practice this whole time in terms of Playford takes care of their half of Dalkeith Road and we take care of our half, that it seems there's some administrative stuff we have to do there. So I don't think it seems to be agreed on by both councils, so I imagine this will go through a lot faster than our other boundary change proposal.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes, thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Kosh?
Yeah, look, I think it's a logical thing to do. It just highlights where there's an issue with boundaries. For example, Sunnydale Avenue, the boundary is along the fence line of the residents on the western side. So when they come out of the driveway, they cross it, they're in the Barossa. So they really don't get any services whatsoever. They haven't got any footpaths and there's no drainage up there at all. No. It's an issue when the boundary isn't in the right spot. But that might be rectified with, you know, the bigger picture.
Yes.
So, but it's just interesting when the boundary is in the wrong spot. It just makes it difficult for everybody. And I get that all the time. People come to me and say, why aren't you doing this, that, and the other? I said, well, the boundary's there. And they say, but you're taking our rates, but I'm not getting anything, which is true, really.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Deputy Mayor, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 10.4, Historic Walls Update Report, recommendation from IES committee meeting held on the 21st of November. How do you wish to proceed? Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Do you wish to speak at all?
Just briefly, we have discussed looking at ways to sort of help this scheme through, so I think this is the next step to continue that process.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hennessy.
I'm happy to second this, but I do notice that in the original meeting the wording was a public workshop be conducted.
It was a public workshop and I picked that up and I think we should put that in.
I think that needs to be added in.
Yes, it was a public
because
workshop.
a workshop to me is a council workshop, and I deliberately, I don't know who put the word in, it may well have been myself, that the word public was very definite.
Yeah, it was. On page 24, at the top of page 24, a public workshop be conducted.
I'm not sure, I've just been reminded, do I need to seek leave of the chamber to make that change? Or is it simply a correction? How do we want to deal with that?
Does Councillor Hughes accept, and you, the seconder, does the leave of the meeting accept?
Brian.
Yep, thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's done. Yeah. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Monthly finance report. Yes, moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. Any comments? Yes, thank you.
On page 27 of 79,
yes.
there's an increase of 72,000 for the water consumption. I suppose that's on green infrastructure. February, we've had, I record rainfall, and this is the first time we haven't had any rainfall since 2015 in February, which is crazy. So I'd imagine we're going to have another big bill, and I'm just wondering what strategies have we got in place to maybe reduce the reliance on potable water on some of our green spaces, taking into consideration the report that Jerry Charlton wrote a number of years ago, because that actually had a lot of strategies in there that we could implement to reduce the potable water in our green spaces. Thank you.
Through the chair, look, I think I'll take it on notice and provide a more detailed response, but I guess what I can say is for the major water using reserves, we are already using best practice technology. We've got soil moisture monitoring. We're using all the best practice IPOS guidelines. So our water efficiency for our main user sites is already at the upper end of efficiency, but I can certainly have a look and see what else we can do, because this was a bit of a shock for us as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. So that question's been taken on notice. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Hughes, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now we go to information reports. We can move them en bloc. 10.6. Oh, I missed one. Monthly finance report. Let's have a look. Oh, 31. Okay. 31. Mid-year budget review, 10.6. Do you wish to move that way? Deputy Mayor, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, so firstly, it just, in terms of the wording of the motion, the point 2, it just says that the council an increase of 1 point. Are we noting or are we approving, or what's the word that's missing there in point 2?
An increase of
Well,
1.8.
it says that the council an increase. Okay, that the council notes an increase. Yeah.
Note
okay.
an increase. Does the mover and seconder accept that variation? Yeah. Does the meeting accept that variation? Does the meeting accept that variation? Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay. No, it's an increase of 1.8 and an increase in capital income received. So we're nearly up to 2 million deficit. Okay. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Hennessy?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I thought actually of adding an extra clause that allows us to express our concern at the situation that we find ourselves in, and noting that we will pay attention to our Audit and Risk Committee. However, I'm happy perhaps not to put that into a formal motion, but I certainly are going to ensure that we all pay full attention to this. This cannot continue. I know the staff are working extremely hard, and I know that they're providing us with full transparency, which is helpful. But yes, this situation cannot continue and will not continue in the following budget. Thank you.
So I think it's really important that we listen to our audit independent members. We have 3. We have Natalie Johnston, we have Christine Hahn, and we have Peter Fairley-Jones. And they're all very, very experienced, and they give us wise counsel, and I think we should listen to them. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Councillor Samble?
Mayor Karen, I agree with what Councillor Hennessy said. And, you know, when I look at page 45 of 79 and I look down there, I suppose there's a couple of questions I need to ask. Is this whole project being handled by council or by an individual organisation?
Sorry?
What we're talking about, the netball courts?
No, we're talking about the mid-budget review.
Right. Okay, I'll give up.
We've gone back. We're on page 31. We're on page 31. Yeah, 31. Mid-year budget review. So we're talking about a $1.926 million deficit. That's what we're talking about. And I said that we need to listen to our independent members on our audit committee because they are very wise. Okay. Deputy Mayor, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. So now we're up to information reports. We can move them en bloc. Hey? What? Sorry? Well, shall we do 11.3 first? Shall we do 11.3 first? We can move that up. If somebody wants to move, that we move 11.3 first, and then we can ask questions. Are you happy to move that way? Are you happy to second? Thank you. We'll move 11.3 up, and we'll ask Kevin and Karen lots of hard questions. No, we won't. But so we'll move that up. All those in favour of the motion, thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. So we now are discussing your report. So would you like to come forward, Kevin? He's the new chair.
Okay. Mayor, elected members, staff, got to be courteous to you guys. Most of you know me. My name is Kevin Fisher, those that don't. And I've been on the board for some time. Most of that time was as an elected member. I served on there and stayed on, enjoyed it so much. I think that's what I'm saying at the moment. Look, my aims as the new chair are probably, I've used the term blue sky thinking. I'm wondering whether we need to change it up a little bit, what we do. Try to engage a little bit more with some businesses and certainly to get more business representation on the board. It's probably one of the things that it's disappointed me over the last 3 to 4 years probably, just sitting there and looking around the table, and there's some good calibre people there, but I'd just love to see a wider selection. And look, Raf Stamachi has been approved to come onto the board. He was on previously, and he's a retail shop owner in Murray Street, and it's good to have him on there, and I'd like to see a couple of others. So it will require a little bit of legwork, I think. Just haven't had the time to try and hit the ground running, if you like, with that. So that's one of the areas I think that by having some more business owners on there, some more vibrant people to come on with different ideas, I think everything should be on the table for us to have a bit of a look at. Had some really good discussions with council via the CEO and the mayor, and that is the thing that's impressed me is some of those have been big picture items, things that maybe we should be looking at, a little bit more of an advocacy role. I will touch briefly on the business plan. I know you've all probably had a look at it, so you're all over it as you did what I would do when I was in your shoes. Look, we'll continue support for the Christmas parade. That was a success. I think it was more of a success than what anyone even had hoped when it was first proposed, and we were on the ground sitting in on those meetings that Tony had put together, really. Art on the Plains, sponsorship of the Christmas carols, we'll continue to do that. Advocacy for businesses, whatever they might be, whether they're new businesses or even existing businesses or proposals that might come. I still think we have a pretty good relationship there, and one of the things that came up at our meeting was with the loss of Ryan Viney, who we thought was really good. He was a person that we could go to and send those inquiries to that were really good. So we've had discussions with with Karen and Andrew about how we can make sure that continues, because I think we all know that sometimes an inquiry that comes through and it's only looked at purely from a planning perspective, and planning staff with the appropriate experience to recognise the benefit that might have. That's a good one. Business to business, we've noticed a bit of a reduction in business to business referrals, although I must say that Karen and Adele handle some of that in-house now. And when I was chatting with Leonie, I think she's also noticed that's not just in Gawler, that's probably across the Barossa as well. That's that business-to-business program for all of those that you're aware of it. Tammy's Table, we received a grant for last year. It's something we've been operating for a while, and we see it as a little bit of a success for us. it's mostly aimed, I think, initially at women in business, but it's more of a, anyone can go to those, and they have always have an item they're going to discuss at those. The business conference we've turned into a biennial event. I got that right now, instead of I wrote biennial in my notes. The workshops will also continue those, but again, they'll be more targeted. We won't just roll out 8 or 9 workshops in a year where we offer various things. We'll try to make sure we fill those workshops up. Instead of having 6 people, we'll try to get more people and more targeted to the requirements of business for the development. Go Local, which is a campaign we've started, and lots of flyers. Hopefully you've noticed the flyers floating around. We've started a Facebook page specific to that, and that'll also be what we'll use to promote businesses and keep our Gawler Business Development Group page as more of a business of Gawler Business Development Group. So more of that, and of course, there was the business awards were discussed, because if we're going to have a biennial event, there has to be a format or a way that whether we're going to continue those. I think the board wants to continue it, but we're going to work something out with that. Precinct signage, we've been discussing that with in our monthly meetings with council, so that's something that it's not, I'm just looking at your deficit before and proposed deficit, and it doesn't augur well for discussions about digital precinct signage anyway. Although there is a possibility there, we just put a little inkling out there that we may be able to utilise some funds if the board agrees for something in that place, in that space. We may be able to assist with that, so it might be a shared council and Gawler Business Development Group program. But again, like I said, I'm speaking a little bit ahead of what the board's made decisions on that. Networking events, that also came up at our, we might target some more networking events for those businesses that are more trade focused. Maybe down Paxton Street, we might be able to target something specifically for them, and then once we get them engaged in that, then we can broaden that and drag them into, I think one of my sayings was the rising tide floats all boats, so you try to get everybody involved. Possibility of a Gawler show stand has also been discussed, and we may progress that. What that will be, whether it will be businesses can use us that can't afford to, have their own stand, or whether it's a Gawler Business Development Group. We haven't quite worked out what that might be, or whether it will go ahead, but it is one of the discussion points. Just on your noting the 90,000 carryover, and we discussed this the other day, with the conference held over, we carry over 15,000, so instead of putting 30,000 in our budget, there's actually 15,000 that will be carried over for next year's event, so that's part of the carryover. We're actually holding funds from the Christmas parade. There are funds that are run through our accounts because we are, a registered entity, and so that was most of the fundraising, and therefore the outgoings have still yet to come out of our accounts. We have the grant funding for Tammy's Table, which is over a 2-year program, so we have, I think it's approximately 15,000 for that, and the Business Shopper program, about 5,000, which are carryover funds that we will be using for next year. And now I open myself up to questions from elected members, and Paul straight up.
Councillor Koch.
Kevin, I'm glad to hear you talking about digital signage. I think we've talked about this over a number of years. My biggest concern is how ineffective. I wonder the effectiveness of the street banners, for example, and the cost of putting those up, whether some of those funds could be moved over to a digital sign, because I think the digital signs are there and now, and you can change it quickly, and it's a really good way to send public messages. So anyway, I'll look forward to the discussions.
Yeah.
Happy to respond on that. As you know, I was an advocate back in the day, and we never seemed to have the funds, but now again, as I glance up, I'm almost certain you haven't got the funds now, but that is one of those things. The ability to, community signage was something that, maybe we could be in a position to support something, and I liken it to, and I've talked to the Mayor and Andrew around this, is the You imagine somebody driving into the town, they're on their way through, they're heading to the Barossa or wherever that might be, and then on that community digital sign, they can actually see there's a football game on at Gawler Central. So they might go, let's just pop off and have a look at that football game, and then they'll buy a pie and a pasty, which is supplied by the Gawler South Bakery. And this is all some of the, if you can capture people and, the next digital sign says there's also one at Williston, there's a football game, or the Tiddlywinks is being played at the Gawler Central, the rec centre. All of this is a way to capture people, and the immediacy of, the dwell ratios. Precinct signage, if you had something at Paxton Street, because one of the issues with the old precinct signage was that there were about 7 businesses on there. That's all they could fit on there. And we all know there's a lot more businesses down there. So if you had a digital sign there, that the opportunity to actually say to everyone, well, you're going to be on there for 10 seconds every so often. So depending who's going past, they can see it. I just think they're an underutilised resource. Well, they are for now, until 20 years' time, when I suppose every sign will be like that. But the opportunity is to get into that early and to try and do that. Main Street, that's a whole other thing. I agree that they should start transitioning those signs, the banners over the top. That way you don't have to pay to have staff out on a Sunday morning to come and change them over. Yeah, but anyway, you probably tagged one of my little favourite subjects. But
yeah, they're a good idea. They're a good idea, Kevin. Yeah, I think they're a really good idea. Yeah,
we'll continue to explore.
Councillor Sample.
This Councillor Fisher, or what can I call you now, Kevin? It's great to see you in the role, and I'm sure Karen's keeping you in order. And just a couple of things. To do with the Coda Amendment and Vidulis' site, have you had much feedback regarding that, what happened? And the other thing is the Christmas parade, which was absolutely fantastic, and last time was done was many years ago. But the problem of limited shops open. So many people made comment about, well, hang on, thousands of people in the main street of Gawler and the shops were shut. Especially the food shops. I don't think I've ever seen a Subway run out of bread, but I was about the third to last to get the bread in there, and they had to shut their door because the deli wasn't open next door. I'm just wondering if you had any feedback about that. So there's a couple of questions there, Kev. I'm sure you can answer them, though.
I'll start with the second one first. I think that we were all surprised with the success of the event, and there were well-known anecdotal stories about those shops that should have been open, those food and hospitality type places that should have taken advantage. Those that are open all did take advantage of it. I think that won't be revisited, I would have thought. But we all run into this issue with our mum and dad business owners that they, and we've tried at the board to advocate for opening Tuesday to Sunday, but they've got children. These are some of the challenges we have, is to try and get those businesses to open and change the way that they actually operate. And it's something we'll continue to advocate for. But in that type of event, I'm pretty sure next year there'll be a lot more preparedness. And chatting with one of the businesses, like for example, I think the phone shop, I was talking to him and asked him about the event. Now, he's not going to directly benefit from that. I'm hopeful that you generate more people coming to the town. Those people that come to the town, they notice that shop there, or they notice that there's a shop that they can attend. So, did you want to add something, Karen? Yep.
I'll just quickly add to that just in the last few weeks I've been contacting a few of the businesses to find out what they think now about the feedback from the event, because the thought was that it wasn't going to be big enough to warrant them opening and spending the extra money on the overheads. So there's definitely more people now looking at opening for this year's event, and we will be driving that. We'll be out there in the streets talking to the businesses and trying to get them to figure out a way that they can actually juggle their staff around and actually open. So, good question.
Good question. Any other questions? If not, Kevin, thank you very much for that presentation. I'm really looking forward to you changing up the Gawler Business Development Development Group and bringing in new, fresh ideas and and I think we're having a forum for different coordinators from different regions, and that would be very exciting, I think, yes. Yeah, so thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the officer's recommendation. Do you wish to move that way?
Yeah, I'm happy to move those en bloc.
Yeah.
Are
you happy to move them en bloc?
Yeah, they're noting reports. So,
move en bloc. Yep. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga. Thank you. All those in favour? Yeah, I'll ask. I'll do the motion first, that we do it en bloc, and then I'll ask questions. Okay? So all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So we have Gawler and District Netball Courts redevelopment, final design, Reed Reserve Play Space, final design. We've had a presentation from Kevin Fisher, the chair of the Gawler Business Development Group, and we have a grants update. So you've got questions, Councillor Kosh? Yes?
It's with the netball redevelopment. I looked at the four designs, but because they were separate, I couldn't quite work it out.
They're all disjointed.
Yeah. I just want the car park. Does the car park nudge itself into the river? Is that where it goes, or not, or near the river?
It looked like it was going into the river.
And also, I just want to say that I'm glad that we're thinking about having Aboriginal people there through the excavation, given what happened at Riverlea. I think that's extremely important. That I'm glad that was picked up. So yeah, if I could just get a bit of an idea where that car park is, that'd be good.
So through the chair, the car park is definitely not going out into the river. It sits within basically its existing footprint. It is just purely the formalisation of it and the use of permeable paving and some actual formal drainage down there, so that we're managing the area appropriately and to maximise car parks. But yeah, it's all fit within the appropriate spatial arrangement. There's certainly no impact on the riverbank itself, and 100% the cultural management plan for that project, like any project, particularly in a river corridor, is really important. So yeah, would not have missed that. It always is a quagmire down there. It's a massive quagmire, so that will be a huge improvement, and I'm sure the Netball Association will really love what you're doing down there. Yes, Councillor Hennessy?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I strongly echo Councillor Kosh's words about the Cultural Heritage Management Plan. I think that shows our commitment to some of the sensitivity that might occur in that area, so well done. I do notice, and I guess it's just a comment, that 11.1, 11.2 and 11.4 raises with me some concerns. Here we go, we've got grants, fabulous. We're building assets, fabulous. And here we go, we're now adding to the total amount of assets that the council owns, and hence will have another impact on our depreciation. It seems it's a two-edged sword getting grant funding, I think, because we then have to manage the depreciation of that, and that is causing us, and has caused pain for this council for many, many years, and I think it's something we're going to have to struggle with. I wonder how we're going to actually deal with it all. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, do we have a mover and a seconder? I can't see it. I can't see it. So we've got seconded Councillor Vallelonga. It was Councillor Vallelonga. Councillor Vallelonga. Who was the seconder for the resolution for the Gawler Business Development Group? We did that en bloc, and that was... No, it wasn't. It was Councillor Vallelonga. It was Councillor Vallelonga. No, Councillor Hughes moved it and Councillor Vallelonga seconded it. Thank you. If you can just put that there, that would be lovely. Councillor Vallelonga seconded it. Okay. You want to ask a question? Yep, sure.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. Just a question. On page 45, I've caught up now, to do with the work being done on the Gawler District netball courts. On page 45, these particular expenditures that are there, are they being handled by an independent company or whatever, or our council?
It's a council project.
A council project.
And it was given, it was an election commitment, $4.8 million, and the interest adds up to $5,058 million.
Yeah, I've got all that here, but we've got two fantastic arborists that work for council. Why are we paying an arborist tree survey and reports when that, I would have thought that would have been handled in-house?
I'll get Wendy to answer that.
55 grand.
So through the chair, you're right, we've got some absolutely wonderful arborists within our own teams. However, for projects of this scale and projects that need to go through Public Works Committee, for example, the importance of having independent technical advice is paramount, and it's actually required. So we do use external arborist consultants for projects of this type. There's a number of different occasions when we'll use independent advice. So yes, it does seem like a lot of money, but again, it's a sensitive environment and there are some very beautiful long-lived red gums through there.
It went through the Public Works Committee, didn't it?
Has been through Public Works Committee, it's been approved, but making sure we protect those trees has been one of the key objectives of the design process.
Thank you for that answer. Okay, so we've moved and seconded, we've carried unanimously the resolution that we moved up, but we've actually moved them on block. We've actually moved them on block. So any other questions around any of these items, elected members? No? Okay, so we will move on. Okay, so now I am on page 69. Recommendations from the Gawler Youth Advisory Committee meeting held on the 5th of February. And we'll go through one by one. Item 7.1, appointment of chairperson and deputy chairperson. You happy to move that way, Councillor, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, happy to move this, and I'll just like to congratulate Jade Hancock, who's been the chair for the past couple of years, who stepped back to deputy chair this year, and congratulate Abby Dale, who's stepping up as the new chair of the Youth Advisory Committee. Abby's quite involved in the community. I saw her at the Fringe opening performing with the Gawler Youth Band, and she helps with skating at the rec centre and various other things around the town. So I think it will be great to have her as our new chair of the committee.
Thank you. Do you happy to second that? Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Youth Sponsorship Program, Liam Griffiths and Stefan Pretorius. Moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Solomon. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Youth Development Officer update. This is a report be noted. Happy to move that way, Deputy Mayor, and seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, notes the Gawler Youth Advisory Committee Youth Traineeship Program Proposal Report. Notes that a budget bid has been included. Who wants to move that way? It's up the top, 8.2. Okay. Moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Thank you. And removal of busking permit fee. This is an extra one that wasn't in our agendas. It is up there. If you look up there, adopts the recommendation. It was missed from the Youth Advisory Committee. Removal of busking permit fee. You want to move that way? Yeah, thank you. I'll get a seconder. I'll get a seconder. You happy to second? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Solomon seconded. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Thanks. And just in relation to how much revenue we make from busking permit fees and how many we generally have each year, I'm not sure if that's on hand or whether that will need to be taken on notice, but we get some clarity on that. David,
if you'd like to, I don't know. I'm happy for anyone to answer this question.
Through the chair, on average we have about 3 permits per year, so a total of $225.
Okay,
roughly.
That's great. That's great. So we've got a mover and a seconder, and I think that answered your question, Councillor Solomon. You first.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Solomon. That was something I wanted to point out so that we know what we're actually removing as an income stream, but I'm very comfortable with that. I'm assuming that we still have some method of actually having an application fee for buskers, because it's not just the amount we charge, there's some other issues to do with liability and a whole range of stuff. So my question is, will we continue to have an application process?
I suspect that we will. David, who's going to answer that? Jack?
Through the chair, that is one thing that we're looking at if we do waive the $72 fees.
So you will have a process?
Introducing that through a process, yeah.
Okay, and that will include public liability?
Council actually takes out public liability for up to 15 performers per year, so we cover the public liability insurance for all performers up to 15. We can increase that, but of course that increases the premiums as well through the local mutual liability scheme.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I'll go to Councillor Koch. Was it the same question? Yeah.
Just, Mayor, I think it's really important that we use that as an educative process so that buskers are aware of the benefits they have by applying and being covered. So one thing's getting rid of the money, but I think the other part is really important that we publicise that.
I'll go to Jack, and you can explain how you explain that to the buskers.
Through the chair, it would simply be undertaken through the administration process of actually taking in an application for a busking permit.
Yeah.
And that would be explained on the application form. So it would be fairly straightforward. The only other caveat is, apart from them not needing to have public liability, is they still need to get a police clearance to perform.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I think that explains that rather well. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I'm just happy to support this motion. I think, as explained, this is where we're not even dealing in the 4 figures here in terms of the amount that comes out from this fee, and it is something that more liveliness in the town, more, we've been wanting for a while for there to be Walker Place, for example. We sort of only have big events there because medium-sized events are sort of priced out by road closures and fences and all sorts of things. But there is room in those kinds of places for just single acts performing and all this kind of thing, and we'd love to get more of that happening around the town, and if we can encourage that, then it would be great.
Thank you. Yes. Do you wish to seek leave to speak again? Yeah. Yep, yep. Do you wish to speak? Okay. Yep, yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to support this motion, I think it was, unfortunately I wasn't at this meeting because it hadn't made it into my calendar quite yet, as I just joined a couple of days before, but I was watching the meeting back, and I think it's really, you know, we have some really talented young people in the town, young musicians who are doing fantastic things, and of course if you're, you know, not working or below school age, this is, you know, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but you know, when you don't have that income, it is quite a lot of money. So I think it's, you know, really the committee was really looking to give that opportunity to some of those people who are, you know, emerging talent in the town, and so I think this is a good motion to support, and good on the Youth Advisory Committee for bringing this forward.
Any further discussion? If not, Samble, Councillor Samble.
Thank you, Mayor Karen, and I applaud that decision because we've got to encourage more of that daily activity in our main street. I think it'll bring people to Gawler. People come along and sing, especially when Isaac gets out with his pianola. It'd be great to...
You got a pianola?
Pianola or something like that, you know.
Yeah, I know what a pianola is.
Oh, you do know what a pianola is, that's right.
Yeah.
But I think it's really good, but there's one big thing we've got to do is promote it. Hit the headlines, you know, Gawler, no busking fee, come on in, and so forth, because that's the only way we're going to get people to come on in, because we're a bit lax in promoting what we are like, especially car parking and things like that. So this is one great way. Please support this motion, and hopefully we can get a lot of young people, as Isaac said, come to the town and show their talent.
The debate is closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. So now to the Audit and Risk Committee, and we'll do them one at a time. Motions made under delegated authority that the Procurement Local Economic Benefit Report be noted. Happy to move that way. Seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We will do the mid-year budget review because recommends to Council to consider strategies to reduce the deficit for the remainder of the 2023-24 financial year. I think that's an important point. Moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Risk management update. 12.2.2, moved by Councillor Koch, seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Internal audit work plan update. That Council adopts the recommendation that the Audit and Risk Committee receive and note the internal audit work plan update. Moved by Councillor Koch, seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Annual business plan and budget timetable, moved by Councillor Koch, seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Treasury management discussion paper. That was a really interesting discussion. Moved by Councillor, moved by you, and seconded by Councillor Hennessy. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Recommendations from the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Committee meeting held on the 13th of February. Resolutions for noting, we've got 3. Moved by Councillor Solomon, seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Coventry Road Cuddler Code Amendment. Who wishes to move? Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Hennessy. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 12.3.3 Anglevale Road, Evanston Gardens Code Amendment, moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Koch. Actually, you both put your hand up at the same time. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Statewide Bushfire Code Amendment 12.3.4, moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Koch. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 12.3.5, Gawler Electricity Procurement and On-Site Renewable Electricity Update. Always a really good report. Moved by Councillor Solomon, seconded by Councillor Lorna. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Williston Cemetery Conservation and Management Progress Update, moved by Councillor Hennessy, seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. External bodies report, there are none. Questions on notice, there are none. Questions without notice, yes, Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor Redmond. I've just got a couple of questions. I've had a few inquiries
Yes.
in the last few hours. Apparently there was a tree which was vandalised in reserve in Evanston Park, which was removed by council.
Yes, that was cut down in the creek line.
We've had, in relation to that, we've had quite a few instances of people trying to get illegal bushfire or cutting up trees or that. And I'm just wondering what strategies we're implementing to make people aware of the fines that are associated with that, but also to prevent illegal firewood collection.
I did talk to the guys on the ground, and they've been following people who are cutting down trees, and they seem to have quite a good strategy of following them around. But look, if they do it overnight, you're not going to get them. You're not going to get them. And it really is. And 3 years ago, we had 5 or 6 trees cut down, dead trees, and one of them was a scar tree. And it was really upsetting for Aboriginal people, and it really was a nasty thing to do. And that was a scar tree, and that was a really, really old tree. It was dead, however, it was really offensive, really offensive. And so, Wendy, is there a strategy?
Happy for that to be taken notice for a broader explanation.
Yeah, so
well,
I think we can take that on notice.
Yeah.
Wendy, thank you.
Obviously limited we can do, but yeah, good to know what we are doing.
Yes.
The second one was I know it's a while. There was something back in July around the Tamburlaine railway station car park, but I'm just wondering whether we've got any progress on that.
Yeah, good. Wendy?
So through the chair, so we have got an agreed concept design that we've negotiated with DIT. What we are currently waiting on is the preferred design is actually in excess of the originally approved grant funding. So we're negotiating with DIT to make sure that the additional budget is in their 24-25 approved budget. That process is obviously something that then prevents us from moving to the next stage of procurement, which is frustrating for all parties, but we can't...
They have to provide the money, don't they?
We have to have 100% confirmation that the money will be approved in their 24-25 budget before we can go to market. So, it's just on a little bit of hold, which is frustrating us all because we're obviously trying to also time that in with the upgrade of Clark Road as well. So,
thank you. Any other questions? No questions. I'll move on. Motions on notice. Do you want to present your motions on notice, Councillor Koch?
Yep, thanks, Mayor. The first one is pretty straightforward. Although I nominated to be on the Audit Committee for this year, I've come to the decision it's probably more opportunistic for someone else to be on there. I've been on there almost the whole lot of my term, and I think it's probably and because now we only have one councillor, I think I'm almost hogging it, and because I really enjoy it, but I think it's timely that another councillor goes on there to be involved in the discussion and deliberations, because you do actually learn a hell of a lot from the independents. It's actually a really good committee to be on. So basically, I'm standing down, so I suppose that's a vacant position, and hope someone will step up to that role.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Do you second that, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I've been on the committee before, and it's quite helpful in understanding. There's some very good independent members on there. Just clarifying around how many members are allowed on there. So is it that we currently have 2 and one of those is the mayor? Is that correct? Yeah. And the reason is because under the new legislation, we can't have a majority. So
No, we can't.
It's so theoretically, if we had a 4th independent member, we would go up to 3 allowed. Is that how it works? Are we just bouncing around a minority?
There's 3 independent members and there's 2 council members. Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. Does that answer that question? Yeah. Councillor Solomon?
Just a quick question in relation to the term then. Obviously, Councillor Koch is stepping off. So I believe there's a requirement that the term be 2 years. So does that mean that a person would be appointed for the remaining 9 months of Councillor Koch's term, and then another person is appointed in November for a 2-year period? Or is that... Yep, that's correct. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any other questions? We've got Deputy Mayor seconded, moved by Councillor Koch. You want me to put that motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, carried unanimously. And you've got another one? Yes, if you'd like to present that motion.
This is to do with green waste, and it came to my attention that a number of councils are actually having weekly green waste bin collection. So that's the Adelaide Hills are doing it, they're trialling it. There's Holdfast Bay and Prospect, and I had a good chat to one of them, and it was interesting because they said they had about in their trial, they had 622 households, and only 30 said they didn't want to be involved. So that's only 5, there was a 95% uptake in people wanting a green bin every week, which is amazing. So what they've done is the green bin every week and the red bin every second week, and then that alternates with the yellow bin. And the premise behind it is that about 40% that's in the red bin is actually food and waste and stuff that should be in the green bin. So you're actually taking what's in the red bin and putting it in the green bin, and it's cheaper to actually process a green bin than a red bin. Also, if you have when the red bin goes to, say, landfill, you have methane, which is a worse greenhouse gas than CO2. So that's sort of the idea behind it. So interestingly, those 3 councils are giving a presentation to the LGA on the 1st of March. So that would be interesting to actually, go to that. And there's a lot of other councils around Australia that are doing some other things. Like, for example, Marybeck in Melbourne have a weekly green and red bin, plus they have a monthly purple bin where they collect glass. So it's really getting into the recycling side of things. So there's diverting more and more material out of the red bin and into the recycling stream. But interestingly, the Adelaide City Council is running a program on soft plastics. This is a bigger picture, the soft plastics recycling, and they're doing a thing called Kirby, and it goes through the yellow bin, which surprisingly we did a number of years ago. So in Gawler, we actually ran the longest soft plastic collection trial in Australia. Darebin Council ran one for about a month. I had a cousin that lived in Darebin Council in Melbourne. They said it went for about a month. Ours went for about, I think, 2 years. And it was only stopped when the Red Cycle program came into place, and Norma said, we should really just run it through there. But we were actually at a point where we were going to trial this, formally over 1,000 houses, I think, like a fairly big chunk of Gawler, to see how it works. So I just wanted to say that Gawler has got a history in this of doing good recycling, and my view, and my understanding is that people of Gawler actually want to do good recycling practices. And they've proved it when we did this, and also with the rollout of the green bin. When I spoke to the person at this other council, they said their biggest expense to roll out this weekly green bin was actually paying for the bins to go out. Now we're in the process of rolling out those green bins, so we're sort of there-ish. We're getting there. So, a lot of it would just probably be the consultation and following up on concerns people have. For example, the environmental officer I spoke to said, a lot of people were concerned when they had a lot of nappies and stuff, and when they gave them a big bin, that seemed to solve a lot of the problems. So, because they could actually have all those nappies in the big bin and picked it up once a fortnight. You still give the option of once a week because you have to via legislation, but you can work around all that.
So that council requests staff keep a watching brief
that's it. Yeah.
and report back on current weekly green bin collection trials being conducted by a number of councils.
Yes, all I'm asking is that we just have a watching brief and see whether how it works, learn from those councils, and then think about it down the track whether it would suit us.
Yes.
I think it might. But anyway, we can't jump into things and just, they're doing a lot of the hard yards. I think we could just tap into what they're doing.
You happen to second that? Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, happy to support this. I think I have been to some councils where they do a weekly green bin and a fortnightly red bin. I guess, it does need to be coupled with awareness campaigns. I think I talk to people about the green bin, and there are a lot of people who, they know that it's for garden waste, but they don't necessarily know that it's for food waste. And that's the part that unnecessarily goes into the red bin. And so, I think a lot of the people who would say, we need weekly red bins would be placated if they understood that a bunch of the stuff currently going in there could be going in the green bin. It's not just for leaves and branches,
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Solomon.
I'm just wondering if there. I'm just concerned about doubling up, having to double up here a little bit, and just thinking about the timeliness of reports. But is there a way to, as part of this, consult with Norma about sort of the feasibility of that stuff in one go, so that we have all of the information in one report? I'm not sure. I'm happy to take suggestions on what that would look like, and whether Councillor Kosh is even amenable to that.
I think it's a valid motion.
Oh, it's valid. It's valid.
Yeah.
It's just I'm not sure whether we're going to send staff out to do a report and come back, and then send staff out to do another report and talk to Norma and come back with information, and then find out that it was all a waste of time.
Wouldn't they actually consult with Norma?
Well, that's what I mean as part of this.
Consult with Norma, Jack.
Well, as long as you do.
Yeah, you'd consult with Norma, and that would form one report. So it's not two reports, it's one report.
Yeah, that was what I was looking to ensure. So as long as that's possible for staff, and that's what the motion reads in such a way.
I think that would be quite a consultative process with Norma. Yes.
In that case, I'm happy to more than happy to support the motion. I think it's much needed. I do sort of take issue with the 70% diversion rate figure in there, because I'm still not sure where exactly that's come from. I know it's come from the EPA. But
that's on our community scorecard, and that says in there that we actually get 70%. On the community scorecard it says 70.
Anyway, that doesn't matter. I'll move on from that point.
It does say 70.
Anyway, I'm happy to support the motion. I think that's fantastic. As Councillor Kosh said, the more FOGO waste we can divert from red bins, the better. We have good processes to deal with that involve less methane, which is extremely dangerous greenhouse gas. So happy to support.
Any other comments, or Councillor Kosh, happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Motions without notice. Has anyone created a motion? Has anyone created a motion around public consultation? Sorry? Yes.
Just
Yes.
before we do that, I'll just seek leave to make a personal explanation. That I think at the point that we're at with this issue, I've received so many inquiries from residents, and there's been so much conversation about that it would be improper for me to sit on the cap regarding this issue, and therefore I'll be removing myself from that vote and declaring a conflict of interest on the cap. But for this debate will remain in the room, as it's no longer going to be a conflict with my being on the cap.
Okay. Has anyone drafted a motion? No. You've got one.
I've started one.
Yeah.
That council implement formal public consultation in regard to the application for a phone tower at Hammerford Grove.
No, that it needs to be separated. So we need to have a report. We need to have a public consultation process that council runs, and we need to have a report bringing back the risks and benefits of the application. Right. Okay. As a landowner, undertake a public consultation with residents on the proposed Hammerford Grove, including a community forum. Yes. Request staff to prepare a report for council consideration outlining the risks and benefits of the proposed, including the consequences of any decisions council makes as a landowner when owner's consent to the tower is sought. Do we need that end bit, including the consequences?
Yes, I think so, because a bit of appeal rights and appeal rights, you need to know what it looks like.
Okay.
Appeal rights.
All right. Okay, so you're moving that. Do you wish to speak to it?
There is obviously community concern around this tower that was expressed tonight. So the first element encompasses that. The second element looks at the risks. In particular, it does cover off on the appeal rights that the proponent would have, or potentially would have, if we did not approve the lease.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Do you wish to second? Yes.
Wish to second, but also have a quick suggestion. I personally believe we should make, and happy to hear staff's thoughts on this, other members' thoughts on this, but specific reference to the our public consultation policy that would have otherwise have been invoked had it been the 20-year process. If that's,
do we need that in there? Do we need that in there?
Well, I'm just sorry. I think Wendy's got a point about something, but
what would you like to say?
So through the chair, I'm not quite sure where the messaging on this matter has become so confused. However, there has never ever been an intent not to do formal public consultation as part of the process for getting landowner consent for this project. I genuinely don't know where people have gotten so confused on that. However, the fact that people are means that we haven't gotten something right in this. And as the exec manager of the team who started this process, I need to be accountable for that. I really think the motion is up for you as elected members to go through, but I just need it to be clear that there was never an intention for this not to happen. The DA process is a separate process, and
yes, it is.
The landowner consent sits out to the side, and that's where council has the power to make its decision making in terms of granting the lease. I'm really confused by the 5 and 20 year lease thing. I really don't know where that message has come from. I actually think...
Okay, look, we'll go back to the motion. Thank you, Wendy, for those comments. We'll go back to the motion. As a landowner, undertake a public consultation process with residents on the proposed Hemmerford Grove telecommunications tower, including a community forum. Request staff to prepare a report for council consideration outlining the risks and benefits of the proposed, including consequences of any decisions council makes. I think that's a valid motion. That's perfectly valid. It is. That's up to staff. That's up to staff. So which way would you prefer? I think the report needs to come first, and well, we could do it in tandem. We could do it. We could have a report and also do a public consultation process, because people want to ask questions. They want to ask questions. They want to be provided with appropriate answers, thorough answers, and I think that's appropriate. Yeah. Wendy?
To interrupt again, I think given where the level of angst and consternation is, like, my humble advice in this situation is that perhaps we actually prepare a report that outlines the consultation and engagement approach and the key messages that we really need to clarify with this part of our community.
Yeah.
And that as part of that report we can outline the
all
risks
the
and
other
the benefits,
things.
because then that information will also be readily available to people in advance of the engagement process, noting that then we'll have the forums and we can bring the relevant people in to expand on that information.
So we'll have the report first. So that needs to be flipped. So we need to flip request staff to prepare a report number one, and then a public consultation process, including the public consultation process. So we need to put... No, I want 4 up on number 1. Okay. Outlining the risks and benefits, also including a public consultation process. So that could be a separate sentence. That could be a separate sentence. So that could come after sought. We'll include, is to also include the proposed community in consultation process. Yes. Undertaken, yes. As a landowner, undertake a public. So we can get rid of that one. We can get rid of number 2. We can have 1. We can just have 1 when owners consent. The report is also to include the public consultation process to be undertaken.
May I suggest that we leave 2 in, because I think it answers the community. We'll have a process. Explicitly that we will be having it.
Leave 2. I'll leave 2 so it's clear that we will be having a process.
Okay, okay, all right. Including a community forum. Yeah. Yes, certainly.
I think, as was explained here tonight by Andrew, very clearly, a lot of stuff I didn't know what Andrew has said, so already work's been done. So therefore, he and his staff have looked into this. There has been at least 7 or 8 meetings of people in the coastal estate, the Hereford area, walking the talk, you know, getting people to go to meetings and all that sort of stuff. There's been a hell of a lot of work done about this whole issue. But the part that I keep pulling up at is we can't make a decision on that. This is a federal government decision.
No, we're the landowners.
Well, hang on a minute. The federal government came in and they put the pegs in the ground, the pegs that are there in the ground and organised all that. And even our staff didn't know. They had to get a key somehow or other and get in there unless they got an amphibious vehicle and went over the top. There's been a lot of work done. What's going on here, I certainly want to see it move forward. Yeah. But aren't we asking staff to do things that already Andrew has told us tonight on the point of view?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure where we're going here because the residents are really passionate and sincere about they want something done straight away before somebody comes back and asks for another key to the gate.
Okay, so there's an application process which is separate to council, but council is the landowner, and that will come back to council to ask to provide a lease. So I think this is a valid motion. This is perfectly valid. I think that we can undertake public consultation. We're allowed to do that. We've got a public consultation policy, and so we are able to undertake public consultation with the residents so that they can ask questions and they can be provided with hopefully appropriate answers. And I know that staff will provide them with appropriate answers, and so that engages the community. I think that's a really, really good idea. So it's a separate process. There's an application process over there, which is separate to us, and then it will come back and we will be asked for a lease arrangement. So I think that's really, really important that we are the landowner and we should be able to do public consultation. We should. Yep.
Through the chair, then a clarification I'd make is, as I said probably before, I would be waiting to see the application as amended come through the system because it's been foreshadowed by the proponent that they're going to modify the application to address, in their view, the concerns that have been raised during the exhibition process for the DA that's before us. And then obviously after that, which I'm told will be very soon, next few days potentially. So thereafter, yes, there's a DA process still to go through, a CAP process, but then, as the Mayor says, that engagement process would be fine in accordance with whatever resolution you finally pass. But I just think that my emphasis is don't react to what's currently before council, wait till the updated application comes through.
I'm happy to accept this motion without notice. Yep. I am happy to accept it. Yep. Yes, Councillor Solomon.
So just, I think this was, sorry, because I didn't quite get to finish speaking before. I think that this motion, I just want to ensure, and I apologise, that was really a sloppy assumption there, and using the terminology of the 5 to 20 years, which was mentioned in a deputation, that was sloppy, so I apologise for that. What I want to ensure is that this is essentially what was said in the answer to my second question at the beginning of the night, which was that we're not making not making an accusation that something wasn't going to happen originally, and that we're putting up a motion which is not going to encumber the original process that would have gone ahead anyway.
Yeah, it'll be a separate process.
Oh yes, sorry, not the CAP process. That's not what I'm referring to yet. But it wouldn't encumber council doing what we would normally do in this situation where we go out and consult in line with our policy. But also, if there's something that needs to be slightly tweaked in this motion to make the timing of it correct, then happy to do that. But otherwise, as long as this motion is putting forward basically a sentiment from the council saying we think that this is important, that we consult on this, we would like it to be done, we would like to understand the process going forward with that, like we understand, code amendment processes and things like that, and the community clearly understands that, and that's all we're asking for is a verification of what exactly is going to happen, when it's going to happen, and happy for that to be at an appropriate time, and if there's suggestions about what that appropriate time is, happy to hear those. Otherwise, I'm supporting the motion.
Thank you. Any other comments? Or Councillor Kosh, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Council member attendances and activities. So we had the Fringe opening. I went to the new ED with Councillor Hughes, who's on the HAC, Health Advisory Council. Is it council? Yeah, Health Advisory Council. It's fabulous. The new emergency department in our Gawler Hospital is fabulous, absolutely fabulous, and I'm really looking forward to how it will work. Certainly they're going to need more staff, and there's lots of rooms, there's lots of private rooms, there's a quiet room, there's two children's rooms, and there's also two large emergency areas where people can come and be resuscitated. So it's just a fabulous facility, and it will. The only thing I would say is the waiting area is too small, but I think given the throughput, hopefully people will be seen in a timely fashion, and I think it's going to work well. It's really going to work well. Is there 14 rooms, David? 10 rooms. 15 rooms. So there's 15 rooms, and it's just so much bigger than the previous. It's tripled the size, yeah. So it's a fabulous. David, do you want to make any comment about the work that the Health Advisory Council did?
Yeah, I mean, we worked really well with the staff, but this is something that the community's been advocating on for a long time, the upgrade to the accident emergency. So it's something we had more or less on the ready to go when the money was available, and there's actually been extra funds put in to do things like lifts and things like that, which has been fantastic, because there was other upgrades that desperately needed to be done as well. Yeah. So it is a lot more holistic, and it did cost more than the original, but it was all delivered on time. But the Health Advisory Council actually does have vacancies, and we are trying to cover off on different age groups and different, because I think the members now, we're all getting older, but so we are trying to encourage some younger people. I've had a couple of people contact me since the weekend that are young families. So that might be good if we do get some younger members on. There's certainly a lot of work needs to be done in health, and there is scope for further redevelopments.
It's a fabulous facility, and I think it'll work well. Yeah, Councillor Hennessy.
I echo your words, Mayor, but I congratulate the HAC with working very closely on this project as part of an organisation that also provided feedback into that area. It's interesting. I without wanting to be too negative about it, it really brings Gawler to where it should be today. There is no additional room in there for an expanding population. So I just warn people that in terms of that is good, that has brought us from the dark ages into the 21st century, but with our impending growth, there still needs to be planning for the health facilities for the larger Gawler regional population.
Oh yeah, no, that goes without saying, and really, state government needs to invest heavily in Gawler's health and well-being, because without your health and well-being, you're not really walking around appropriately. So I went on a tour of Xavier College campuses. I went to the Gawler Belt campus, I went to Evanston, and I also went to the Two Wells. Two Wells is just a stunning. They've got 800 kids already there. The Xavier College, Evanston, is they've already over 401, and they're bursting at the seams, and they've got a waiting list now. And the principals of Janet Coomber, who runs the Two Wells campus, is just a stunning application. They've just got so many. They've got quiet rooms. They've got, and it's really interesting that the Gawler Primary, design is really coming to the fore, and it's just a fabulous outcome. Evanston, 400 students and a waiting list, and they're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. They're just fabulous. We also, we had a Gawler Fringe Art Exhibition official opening on the 22nd of February, and Abby Dale talked about the youth contribution, and she's doing a fringe show in Unley, and she spoke really well about how you take a risk, and you all artists take a risk because they don't think that anyone's going to buy their product, but they will. And so, no, that was really good. The Fringe in the Park was also on Saturday. I didn't get to it, but it sounded like it went really well. It had over 400 people there, which is fantastic. Yeah, so the Fringe official opening on the 16th of February. I'll stop now. You might want to talk, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, I'll congratulate the staff on the Gawler Fringe opening. I think it was a really well-run event with some great music throughout. There's definitely it was great to see a bunch of people come along and get comfortable. I know our federal member, Matt Burnell, was there for a few hours. There are a bunch of people coming along. And yeah, just the music was very high quality. I stayed all the way until 10 p.m. When it closed, and just continued to be good throughout. So
I also watched my grandson swim in the Woodside Swimming Carnival, which is an Onkaparinga swimming carnival, and Starplex was there, and I went up and congratulated them, and I hope that they swam really well. So yeah, that was fabulous. That was actually really good. Yeah, that was very nice. And I know that the Gawler Swimming Club went up to Clare, and they won the club up there. They won most of the races. They're very good. And yeah, they congratulated Claire on a job well done. So yeah, it's really good to actually look and see where clubs are going to, different country carnivals. It's fantastic. So yeah, I think. And so we've got the Governor's visit on Sunday. You'll be coming. Deputy Mayor, Governor's visit, I think she's going to have to leave pretty much straight away after. However, I hope everyone is coming. It is really important that we show a sign of strength to our Governor, because this is the first time that she's come to Gawler. Martin Johnson invited her, so it's sort of his event. But yeah, we'll, at 2:15, I think she's hitting Gawler. I think she'll hit Gawler at 2:20. Yeah, so, yeah, that will be really, really good. Yeah. Any other events that people went to? Yes.
Thanks, Mayor Karen. Certainly I spoke earlier about the Gawler Vintage and Veteran Car Club, and it's quite amazing how it's grown from the 20th of March 1984 to the 24th of March next month. It will be 40 years old since that club has been going continuously. It has 1,029 vehicles and 840 members. They don't all drive the 129 at once because there's only 840 members, and 325 of those are ladies. And I think that's really great because there's a real mix of people there. But on the 24th of March, without a doubt, is one big event to come to, and that's where they'll be all down for that celebration at Princes Park, and they'll all be on display. So please come on down. There's going to be a really good show there. And then on the 14th of April, Mayor Karen, you're going to be flagging off the Gawler to Barossa Veteran Vintage Run. Michael Steinborner from Steinborner of Gawler is certainly well supporter of it. He's got a magnificent display of motor cars, and that'll be forming up at the Emmanuel Lutheran School just up the road up here and so forth. Electric cars are permitted, so if you have yours out, Councillor Koch. But that's on April the 14th, so it's really great, and the car club's really moving along at the present moment, and members are always welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Samble, for those comments. Any other events that anyone has been to? Thank you. We'll move on. Confidential reports. The Fringe opening was the 16th of February. Thank you. And confidential reports are nil, and I close the meeting at 9:22. Awesome. Yeah, I did. I've got a dry throat.